totally foul Michaela Timpson, but there is no call. Could have took a 1-point lead going into half.
Handed from three. Hole comes soaring in again. He knack and cashes in.
Game 3 wasn't basketball. That's what fans kept saying. And when you watch it back, it's hard not to disagree. Inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse, what should have been a showcase playoff battle turned into something that looked more like a setup.
Wilson sets a screen where she extends her leg out, but of course they call the foul on Lexi Hall, so we don't get calls when we're getting hit, but the Aces get a call when nobody touches anybody.
The Indiana Fever, missing their brightest star in Caitlin Clark, were playing with courage and determination. Against the reigning champion Las Vegas Aces, nobody expected Indiana to hold their own. Yet for long stretches, they led. They hustled, they defended, and they built a real chance to swing the series. And then, just as the dream was turning real, the officiating storm began, and everything unraveled.
Now we're up by 3 and they call a foul that isn't a foul.
The cruel part? Caitlin Clark couldn't do a thing about it. Injured and watching from the sidelines, the biggest star in the sport was forced to sit and witness her teammates claw for every basket, only to see their work erased by a whistle. She wasn't in uniform, but the cameras found her anyway, because she's the heartbeat of this league. Her face told the whole story. Frustration, disbelief, the expression of a competitor who knows her team is being robbed of the spotlight it earned. Indiana actually opened the night with momentum. Aaliyah Boston owned the paint, Kelsey Mitchell attacked with pace, and Lexi Hull, playing through pain, connected on threes that should have been remembered as season-defining moments. The Fever didn't just look like survivors without Clark, they looked like giant killers. But momentum doesn't mean much when every small bump gets whistled one way and ignored the other. The sequence everyone talks about happened in the third quarter. Boston was whistled for a foul she clearly didn't commit. Stephanie White, the head coach, called for a challenge. The bench stood, the crowd roared. Everyone knew this call could be overturned, but the officials wouldn't even acknowledge it. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray drained a three, and Indiana's lead disappeared in a flash. One moment, Gainbridge was exploding with energy. The next, it was stunned silent. Fans waved their arms, screamed at the refs, and begged for an explanation that never came. Social media didn't wait. Within minutes, clips of the call and the ignored challenge went viral. Side-by-side replays showed Indiana players shoved to the ground with no whistle, compared to Vegas getting calls on light contact. The captions were blunt: "This is not basketball." Another post racked up views with the line, "Indiana is fighting the Aces and the refs." And over, Caitlin Clark's name appeared in the comments, even though she never touched the floor that night. Because here's the thing, Caitlin's absence made the imbalance even louder. Without her presence to soak up attention and shift momentum, the game felt exposed. Every whistle against Indiana became a reminder that their star wasn't there to push back. Fans said it openly. If Clark was playing, they wouldn't dare call it like this. Whether true or not, that perception spread fast. By halftime, Aja Wilson was struggling. She opened with a quick three, but then missed almost everything. Boston's defense forced her into awkward shots, and frustration showed on her face. She went long stretches without scoring. Normally, that would spell disaster for Vegas. Yet thanks to officiating, the Aces stayed close, and when Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray started hitting their rhythm, the advantage swung. Not because Wilson dominated, but because the whistles kept Indiana from finishing what it started. Fans inside Gainbridge felt cheated, and they said so with their voices. Every time Vegas walked to the line, the chorus of boos grew louder. Clips of Clark shaking her head or staring at the scoreboard spread online. She didn't need to say a word. Her expression was the same as every fan watching: disbelief. And this isn't just about one game. This pattern has been there from the start of the series. Game 1 saw Vegas pile up free throws while Indiana's physical defense got punished. Game 2 left even Clark saying it was impossible to find rhythm with whistles stopping play every few seconds. By Game 3, it wasn't a pattern anymore. It felt like a wall Indiana couldn't climb. That's why fans didn't just say it was unfair. They used one word, again and again: rigged. It's a dangerous word for a league trying to grow. People online broke down plays frame by frame, showing Indiana getting hacked with no call while Vegas barely got touched and went to the stripe. YouTube breakdowns, TikTok edits, threads on Twitter, all pointing to the same conclusion: the balance was gone. The Aces weren't pulling away because of talent, they were being lifted by whistles. And when that word rigged shows up next to Caitlin Clark's name, the league has a problem. She's the reason ratings are up. She's the reason tickets are selling. She's the reason casual fans are tuning in for the first time. But if the story tied to her image is about unfairness, then fans lose trust. And trust in sports is everything. The business angle only makes the story more complicated. The WNBA has built Las Vegas into its showcase team. Back-to-back champions, Becky Hammon as a high-profile coach, Aja Wilson marketed as the face of the league. It's easy to see why the league benefits from Vegas making another finals run. But when that success overlaps with calls like these, the optics are terrible. Fans aren't blind. They see a dynasty being protected while a rookie phenom is sidelined, and they're left wondering whether outcomes are about basketball or business. That's why the outrage has been so loud. This wasn't about one night's loss. It was about legitimacy. The Fever proved they can hang with the best, even without Clark. They proved Boston can shut down Wilson. They proved Hull has the heart to play through pain, and yet the result didn't reflect that effort. Instead, it reflected whistles that shifted momentum and handed advantage after advantage to the champions. For Caitlin Clark, this moment will linger. She didn't play, but she felt it. The helplessness of watching your team do everything right, only to lose control of the outcome. The frustration of sitting there, injured, while the refs dictated the flow, and the fire of knowing that when she returns, she'll carry not just her own motivation, but the anger of an entire fan base. She's always had a competitive edge. After this, that edge might become a blade. The Fever's future suddenly looks brighter because of this pain. They now know they can push the champions to the brink even without their star. They know they can fight through injuries, bad calls, and momentum swings. They've been tested in fire, and they're still standing. Imagine what happens when Clark comes back. Imagine her feeding Boston inside, running transition with Mitchell, and drawing defensive pressure that frees up Hull for those big threes. Add that to a team that already proved its toughness, and suddenly Vegas doesn't look untouchable anymore. So we circle back to the question, did the Aces really win Game 3, or was it taken out of Indiana's hands? Fans don't need convincing. They've already decided it was stolen, and Clark will never forget what she saw. The league's brightest star was forced to sit through a lesson no competitor ever wants, what it feels like to be powerless while the system works against you. That kind of frustration doesn't fade. It becomes motivation. Game 3 will be remembered for whistles, not plays, for outrage, not highlights, for Clark's glare from the bench, not Wilson's stat line. And maybe that's the worst part. On the night Lexi Hull delivered her playoff masterpiece, on the night Boston locked down an MVP, all anyone talks about is officiating. The game itself got buried under controversy, but that's also why fans will be watching even closer next time. Because Caitlin Clark isn't just coming back from an injury, she's coming back from watching her team be denied. She's coming back to prove that no whistle, no crew, and no opponent can silence her. When she steps back on the court, it won't just be about points and assists. It'll be about restoring balance, proving the Fever can't be controlled by anything but their own talent. So here's the thought I'll leave you with. This wasn't just another playoff game. It was a warning shot. If the league wants to keep growing, if it wants fans to believe, it has to deliver fairness. Because the Fever didn't just lose Game 3. They had it taken. And Caitlin Clark, sitting there helpless, will use that memory as fuel. Her comeback won't just be about her. It'll be about rewriting the story for her team, and maybe even for the league itself. What do you think? Was Game 3 just sloppy officiating, or was something bigger at play? And when Caitlin Clark returns, will this fire make her unstoppable? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because if this series proved anything, it's that Caitlin Clark's story is only just beginning. Game 3 began with the kind of energy that only playoff basketball can create. Gainbridge Fieldhouse wasn't just filled, it was vibrating. 17,000 fans packed every seat, waving signs, holding up phones, and chanting before the ball even went up. Everyone knew the challenge ahead. No Caitlin Clark, no safety net. But the Fever weren't timid. They opened like a team that believed they belonged, and for most of that first half they proved it. Aaliyah Boston set the tone early. Her footwork in the paint was crisp, her positioning perfect, and even as the Aces tried to swarm her, she forced her way into scoring position. Every bucket she made sent a wave through the crowd. Then there was Lexi Hull, the player nobody expected to even be suiting up, let alone becoming the heartbeat of the night. Playing through obvious discomfort, she connected on big threes that seemed to echo louder than the final score ever could. Kelsey Mitchell attacked with her trademark burst, blowing by defenders and creating chaos in transition. For much of the first half, Indiana outplayed Vegas. They moved with confidence, played smart team defense, and silenced any doubts that they'd roll over without Clark. It was supposed to be Vegas's night to dominate, yet the fever-dictated tempo made the extra pass and built a lead that had the building believing something special was brewing. But then, the familiar sound of whistles began to shift everything. The first questionable call looked small on its own. A light bump on Jackie Young turned into free throws. Fans groaned, but they shook it off. Then another came, this time on Boston, when replays clearly showed Wilson lowering her shoulder first. The building's energy flickered. Still, the fever held strong. But when a third whistle came within the same stretch, this time calling a foul on Hull for what looked like clean defense, the mood changed entirely. Indiana wasn't just battling the Aces, they were battling something else. That third quarter became the breaking point. Indiana had built a 6-point cushion. The crowd was roaring. Boston had just muscled in another tough bucket, and you could feel momentum turning into something dangerous for Vegas. That's when it happened. Aaliyah Boston was called for a foul that stunned everyone. Stephanie White jumped up instantly, signaling for the challenge. The bench joined in, pointing to the big screen, urging the refs to look again. It was obvious to everyone that the call was wrong, but the officials refused. They didn't even glance toward the table. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray buried a three, and in that one possession, everything changed. The building went from ecstasy to disbelief. Fans waved their arms, some booed so loudly you could hear it over the broadcast, and Caitlin Clark, sitting on the bench in street clothes, was caught on camera shaking her head. That image became the symbol of the night. Clark didn't need to say a word. Her expression said it all. This wasn't right. From that moment on, it felt like the game slipped into control of the officials. Vegas went to the line again and again. Indiana's physicality was punished while the Aces' bumps, elbows, and pushes were ignored. Every fever run ended with a whistle. Every Vegas stumble turned into free points. Fans weren't imagining it. The box score backed it up. The free throw disparity told the story as clearly as the scoreboard. Social media ignited. One fan posted a side-by-side replay. Boston being shoved down on one end with no call, followed seconds later by a touch foul on Vegas's star. The caption was brutal. Same sport? Another clip with hundreds of thousands of views showed Wilson setting an illegal screen, extending her leg, but instead of a foul, the whistle went against Hull. Comments flooded in. Daylight robbery. This is rigged. Indiana never had a chance. And while Clark didn't step on the floor, her name trended all night. Fans tagged her directly, saying things like, "Caitlin must be losing her mind watching this." That's because people know Clark's nature. She isn't passive. She's fiery, relentless, and thrives on competing when the pressure is highest. Seeing her sit powerless while her team's effort was erased made the injustice sting even more. Her facial expressions became memes. One shot of her glaring at the court was captioned, "Watching refs play for Vegas." Another simply said, "This league doesn't deserve her." Fair or not? That became the narrative. And here's what makes it even more damning for Vegas. Asha Wilson, their superstar, struggled mightily. She opened the night with a three that looked promising, but after that, she went ice cold. Boston locked her down possession after possession, forcing her into awkward fadeaways and bad angles. By halftime, she was 1 for 11. A reigning MVP, the face of the franchise, was completely neutralized. Normally, that would sink a team, but thanks to the whistles, Vegas stayed afloat. And once Gray and Jackie Young began hitting shots, the tide turned, not because of dominance, but because of protection. That's why fans left Gainbridge furious. It wasn't just that Indiana lost. It was that they did everything right and still walked away empty-handed. Hull put up her best playoff game ever. Boston played elite defense on Wilson. Mitchell pushed tempo. Yet none of it mattered because the momentum kept swinging back to Vegas at the sound of a whistle. That's not competition. That's control. For Caitlin Clark, watching it unfold had to be excruciating. She's already competitive to the core, and now she knows what it feels like to see her team's hard work erased without being able to do a thing. That kind of helplessness doesn't fade. It burns, and when she returns, it will only add fuel to her fire. She won't just be trying to win games. She'll be trying to prove that no amount of whistles or outside noise can stop her. Fans online already see it that way. Comments poured in saying things like, "Clark is going to come back with revenge." Another read, "This just made her even more dangerous." Whether you agree or not, the perception is that the league might have bought itself short-term protection for Vegas but created long-term trouble. Because every time Clark steps on the floor after this, fans will remember Game 3, and so will she. The business side only makes it murkier. The WNBA is enjoying record attention, largely because of Clark, but the Aces have been positioned as the league's dynasty, the brand they want to sell to new fans. From a marketing perspective, a Vegas finals makes sense, but when the defending champs benefit from officiating that looks one-sided, it fuels suspicion that goes far beyond basketball. The league has to ask itself, is short-term narrative worth long-term trust? For Indiana, this series may not end in triumph, but it might spark something bigger. They've shown they can fight without their star. They've shown Boston can go toe-to-toe with the best. They've shown Hull has the toughness to inspire a crowd. Add Clark back into that mix, and suddenly the Fever look like a contender, not a project. This pain might be what forges them. So what will fans remember? They'll remember Clark sitting helpless, shaking her head in disbelief. They'll remember the crowd roaring against the refs instead of the opponent. They'll remember that Hull's career night was buried under controversy. And most of all, they'll remember the feeling that the game was taken, not won. That's why this story isn't over. Clark will return, and when she does, it won't just be about scoring points or setting records. It will be about restoring balance, proving that her presence makes it impossible for anyone to tilt the scales. She's already the face of the league. Now she might become its conscience, the player who refuses to let unfairness define the sport she's saving. Game 3 will go down as one of the most frustrating nights in recent memory. But for Clark and the Fever, it might become the foundation for something much greater. Because when you've seen the game taken from you, there's only one response left. Come back stronger, louder, and undeniable. So I'll ask you, was Game 3 just sloppy officiating, or was something bigger happening? And how will Caitlin Clark use this experience when she returns? Let us know in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because if this series proved anything, it's that the Fever's fight is only beginning and Caitlin Clark's story is far from finished.